Well, hello, guys. My name is Bre Smith, and I am the CEO and founder of Kingdompreneur Publishing. I am so excited to just be coming before you guys. Just to let you know a little bit about me, about my background, because I know some people might be like, "Who is this girl, Bre? What is her deal?" and things like that. And I definitely get it. So, just a little bit about me. I am originally from Louisville, Kentucky, born and raised. I did move away after living there for about 25 years. And then I ended up moving to the DMV area. I lived out there, met my incredible husband named Bre Smith. And then a few years ago, my dad did pass away. And so we moved back to this part of the country. I don't live uh, in Kentucky. I do live near Kentucky because I live near the border, literally on the border of Tennessee and Kentucky. But I am so excited to be back in this region. And so I do have a bachelor's in psychology. I also have a graduate certificate in nonprofit studies, and I'm currently working on my MBA. So, very passionate about business and very passionate about seeing people's lives changed and being transformed through the gospel. I am an affirmed prophet of the Lord. And so, me and my husband do have a ministry called Transformational Discipleship Ministries, where we teach and train people to become disciples and then go out and make disciples. And we do that by teaching and preaching the gospel. And so a couple years ago, just a little bit about my literary background. Back in 2020, when the world shut down, I had actually started doing a lot of fasting and praying because at that time I was like, okay, is Lord getting ready to come back? I want to be in a place where I'm prepared to go if he does come back. And in that process, of fasting, I'd embarked on a 3-day water only fast. And at the end of that fast, I remember having a vision so vivid, right? Where I literally didn't see myself like I saw myself now, right? Like I see myself now. I literally saw myself as a cartoon character, little girl in the throne room. And I'm looking at God, looking at Yahweh sitting on the throne, just being big. Like he looks like, if anybody remembers the Prince of Egypt, like Jethro, like this big dude, a humongous sitting on the throne. And I'm a little girl just kind of playing with God's beard because he had this like big thick beard, and I'm just like hiding it and playing in it. And when I came out of that vision, I heard the Lord tell me to write this book called Bre's Heavenly Adventures with Jesus. Um, and this book is called The True Meaning of Unconditional Love. I wrote a second book in the series. Actually, I have several books. I only really were able to publish 2 at the time. And I'm planning, hopefully, in the future, if the Lord allows me to go back and publish more. But neither here nor there. Had written that book, right? And like I said, it's very prophetic. It was like the words on the page just began to flow, and I was able to get that book done probably within a week or two. Actually, I don't even think it was a week or two. I think I finished several books within like 2 or 3 weeks. And then I had began the process of trying to become a self-published author because I didn't know anything about publishing, promoting any of that. And so began the process of, finding an illustrator, finding somebody to format my book, learning what a title page, copyright page, title page is, the dedication, the book blurb, all the things that go into a book. And so I began doing that. And then shortly after that, I was like, okay, the book is produced. I had an event at my church at the time I was going to that allowed me to have an event. I had several people come out. It was a great turnout. They bought books. I think I even had T-shirts. And it was good, right? It was excellent. It was great. But after that buzz and a couple family members bought, like it died down. And I was like, oh my Lord, like, what is going on? Can I like I'm not selling any more books, And so that began the process of, trying to connect with other children's book authors and things like that. And so I went through a couple of groups on Facebook. a couple of children's book author groups on Facebook, and a few of them were actually having book tours. And I said, "Ooh, this will be amazing. Let me jump on a couple of these book tours and just pre-sign up and show up." And so that's what I began to do. I began to, travel with the book tour. I didn't go to every location, but like the locations that I felt the Lord called me to, I went on a couple of those. And then after that, it was like, okay, Lord, there has to be more, because I still feel like I'm not getting it. And so in the process of looking for some type of coaching and doing different online programs, and I was starting to learn things that I was like, man, I need more. And that's when I ended up getting on Clubhouse. And when I got on Clubhouse, I ended up meeting a woman by the name of Dr. Shirley Clark. Shout out to her. And she began to help cultivate me in the gifts on the inside, as far as, like you really have a gift and a talent, and you can, uh, like, like she literally heard from, like, I was sitting with her in a consultation, and she, like, from heaven, she was able to hear from heaven, because her whole thing is soaking in the presence of God, right? It doesn't matter if you're trying to build a business, if you're trying to write a book, if you're trying to ministry, whatever, like getting in his presence, being quiet and allowing him to speak, right? And then you just do whatever he tells you to do, right? Being obedient to that. And she literally was able to hear the Lord and was like, Bre, the Lord is saying to create some type of platform for authors, and where, you have a showcase and you can have a magazine. And I was like, okay, that way this gives you more exposure, but this also helps other authors to give them exposure. And so that led to the process of me creating the author push. So if anybody remembers me from the author push, that was my brand, still is part of my brand. The author push showcase at the time, and we had the magazine that went along with it. And so inside of the magazine, as you can see, we had like a lot of interviews from various authors, and then of course whoever was on the front page got the front page feature. So you got the about us, the vision, all that type of stuff, right? And everybody loved it. We even had where people can do advertisements and things like that. As you can see, like this is one of my earlier copies, so I was doing a lot of advertising at the time. And so, like I said, I had a showcase. I think I would have like between 20 to 50 authors. Actually, I don't think it was that many. I think it's probably about 20 to 35 authors that would get on there, and they would present. And we would do this like bi-weekly on the weekends, like on a Saturday morning, and I would literally go live, right? And then what happened was the Lord allowed an opportunity for me to grow that platform to where I could actually interview authors. And so it went from the Author Push Showcase to the Author Push Talk Show. And I literally had a producer that was like filming a lot of our content at the time. And I would interview authors one by one. Sometimes it'd be like one after another on the weekend, right? Just so we can have a few showcases and shows underneath our belt. But we would do that, right? And that really became like a hit success. And so I would record authors, and then, like I said, they would have the magazine, right? And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of fell off for a little bit because at times you get a little burnt out. But the Lord started speaking to me again. I think I kind of took a break for about a year and a half, because I did move. It was a lot going on in my family, things like that. But we ended, like I said, the Lord ended up speaking to me and was like, Bre, it's time for you to create a bigger table for the authors, not just creating a magazine and a showcase or, a talk show, but actually being able to create, a place where they can get supported in their books, like actually helping them publish books, right? And I was just like, okay, Lord, I can do that. And so my whole thing is, like I said, I know what it's like to be a struggling author, because when I first created this book, like I said, I had no idea about marketing. I had no idea about publishing. and like, where do I go find these people to self-publish? I had no idea about what an ISBN number was, what the back of the book blurb was. None of that. I did not know any of these things, right? It was like the Lord had to self-teach me. And so I look at my first book as both a blessing and a curse. Because like I said, at the time, I really did not have the adequate tools to really push the book the way that I wanted to, right? The way that I know, like, I have a lot of tools now. Now, when I did meet Dr. Clark, right, we ended up writing this, and this is called a collaboration or a co-author book. And we ended up writing a book called Let the Kingdompreneur Speak, Volume 1, right? Practical tips for Christians to win in the marketplace. And this book became an Amazon bestseller, right? And so she taught us all how to become Amazon bestsellers, right? And I'm going to be teaching a lot of these different things and tactics and like that on the YouTube page, but I'm mainly going to be focused on a lot of things within our Kingdom Author group. So the Kingdom Author Network. So if you want to learn how to become an Amazon bestseller, if you want to learn more about publishing, I don't know if my publishing company is necessarily going to be publishing children's books. But that does not mean that I cannot do a consult with you and kind of walk you through the steps on everything you need if you want to self-publish yourself a children's book. And the only reason why is because it's so much money, guys, to publish these books. And I would hate for you to spend a lot of money with me and you're already going to be spending a lot of money on the illustrations alone. So that's why I say, children's books is a lot. But like I said, if you have a kingdom business book that you've been dying to write, on leadership, right? If you're, trying to write a book on finances, on marriage, if you're trying to write books on discipleship, if you have a poetry book, if you have a devotional book, listen, if you even just be like, listen, Bre, I don't really have all that. I just need somebody to help me publish my own magazine for my church, or I need somebody that can help me publish a magazine for my small business. Hit us up, like, let us know. Also, too, let's say that you're like, okay, I just need help with a workbook, creating a workbook, right? Listen, and getting it published. Okay, well, let's talk about that. They're in the process of finishing up our website. So our website will be going live within the next week or so. And so I am excited about that. So you'll be able to do a lot in booking through our website. And so I will come back and actually drop the link to that website within the description on YouTube. So be on the lookout for that. Also, too, guys, like I said, if you want to get connected to the Kingdom Author Network group, I will actually be dropping that link in the YouTube description below as well, so that you can at least get connected to us with that. And so, but like I said, the whole thing about what I'm creating is really to help other authors. Yes, it is a business, right? But at the end of the day, I want to make sure that you guys are being successful and have the tools needed. And so, and something else that's really cool about the Kingdom Author Network that God kind of showed me to do that I don't really think a lot of other networks do. We're going to be praying and fasting and really learning to cultivate our the way that we hear God, because God talks to people in different ways, right? Some people may be more visual, some people may be more auditory, some people might have dreams, the list goes on, right? But I just want us to make sure that we are developing and that we become prophetic people, in that we hear the Lord's voice for ourselves, and we are producing books and manuscripts that are kingdom aligned for his glory, right? And so, because when he puts his stamp of approval on that thing, it's gonna be blessed. It's going to go further than we ever could think of it ever going. Okay. And so, like I said, guys, I'm really excited. Like I said, the author push if anybody tries to go out there and look, like I said, we have completely rebranded. It is no longer called the Author Push. You might be able to find some stuff on YouTube and things like that. I'm going to be actually creating a whole different type of magazine, so you guys will see that launch when it does come out. But I don't want to talk about it too much right now. But I am excited about that when that option does become available again for authors. And then, like I said, we have different marketing tactics and tools, and I've been partnering with a lot of different people that are excited to come along with helping you to learn, like I said, learn how to actually crank out your books, how to, like I said, even if you want to take your book and make it into a business, right? Like the concepts from the book, and you're actually creating a business around that. Like that's what we want to be able to do. That's the purpose of Kingdompreneur Publishing, right? Kingdompreneur, so being an entrepreneur, but for the kingdom, right? And publishing, and so that's what we're about. Making sure that we can help you take your story, right? And transform it into something that is for God's glory. And so, like I said, I'm excited to be here. We plan to, like I said, start dropping a lot more videos, but I just kind of wanted to do this introduction video of like who I was and things like that, because I know some people like, who is girl Bre? and so that's just a little bit about me. Also, too, guys, I want you guys to know that outside of my own magazine, because I do believe in building your own table to eat from, and we'll talk a lot about that in the group. But also, at the time, I was able to be featured in Writer's Life magazine for that Bre's Heavenly Adventures book. All right. And so, like I said, a lot of, like I said, strategy, a lot of tips. If you're into that type of thing and you want to do that, even down to like podcasts, like starting your own podcast, or getting connected with other podcasters and things like that to talk a lot more about your book. So like I said, I'm excited. I can't wait to hear from each and every one of you. And like I said, let's grow together. So until the next video. Bye, guys.